Và tiếp theo chương trình, con xin thỉnh sư cô Thiên Tuệ thông dịch phần pháp thoại của ngài tối hôm nay. Con xin cảm ơn sư cô. Và con xin thỉnh sư cô thông dịch phần pháp thoại của ngài. Con cảm ơn sư cô.
Hi, host. Can you hear me? Can I start the translation now?
Yes, I can hear you very clearly, sư cô.
Okay. All right. So I should start the translation, yes?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you, host. So let's start by reciting Namo Tassa 3 times. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Buddhang Saranang Gacchami, Dhammang Saranang Gacchami, Sanghang Saranang Gacchami, Dutiyampi Buddhang Saranang Gacchami, Dutiyampi Dhammang Saranang Gacchami, Dutiyambi sanghang saranang gacchami. Tatiyambi puttang saranang gacchami. Tatiyambi dhammang saranang gacchami. Tatiyambi sanghang saranang gacchami. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dhamma. I take refuge in the Sangha. The first time, the second time, and the third time. Now we're going to start taking the precept. The first precept is trying to abstain from taking life. The second precept is trying to abstain from taking what's not given. The third precept is trying to abstain from sexual practices. The fourth precept is trying to abstain from forced speeches. The fifth precept is trying to abstain from intoxicants that can cause carelessness and forgetfulness. The sixth precept is trying to abstain from eating at the wrong time, mainly from the afternoon until dawn the next day. The seventh precept is trying to abstain from dancing, singing, listening to music, watching show, wearing garlands, perfumes, ointments, etc. And the eighth precept is trying to abstain from lying or staying on high and luxurious beds or seats. So that is the procedures for taking refuge as well as taking the precept. Today, Dhamma Talk, Saraji's answer questions of the yogi. So the first question is talking about walking meditations. Dear Bante, while doing walking meditations, I have my eyes closed and I try to pay attention to the moving forward, lifting up and stepping down. All of a sudden, I felt like my two legs felt like the two sticks moving toward, and these sticks, they don't belong to me. Please, is it the right view or is it the right perception when I see it that way? Is it imagination? And if it's the right way to see things, is it the way to see rupa or the material quality that you have mentioned before, Bante? Could you please let me know? So the answer that I understood was, first of all, when the person or when the yogi practice walking meditation, you should not close your eye, because when you walk, if you close your eye, if you're not careful enough, it's not good for you. So a person should practice walking meditation with your eyes open. And during walking meditation, you should walk normally. It just normally, but with mindfulness, with sati, the intentions of walking. And because mindfulness here, when a person doing walking meditation, is a very crucial factor, because normally during the daily life, we walk here and there, but we do not pay attention. We are not aware of walking. But now when we practice walking meditation, we are aware of each step and we are aware of all the movements during the walking meditation. So when the yogi described that the yogi close the eyes and walk with mindfulness, and the yogi explain the steps or the procedures or the stages of the walking meditation that the yogi have. And the yogi say that first of all, the yogi moving forward or stepping forward and then lifting up and then pressing down. So in terms of divided into stages like that, it's kind of the opposite of walking meditation. Because when the yogi do a walking meditation with a normal pace, first of all, the yogi have to lift the foot up. And after lifting the foot up, they would be moving the foot forward. And then after moving the foot forward, then the yogi would lower the foot down to touch the ground or stepping down. But the yogi explained like moving forward, lifting up and stepping down. So the orders of the stages are not the right way when a person practice. And yogi have to be careful with this, because this way of describing might be because the yogi think or remember the process or the stages of walking meditation, but not really paying attention or not really doing walking meditation with mindfulness. So we have to be careful with that we do not want to practice with our mind remembering a theory, but we actually have to do it state by state based on our experience. So according to Mahasi Sayadaw method, when we do walking meditations, the yogi should walk a minimum of 30 minutes or 45 minutes up to 1 hour of walking meditation. And then you can divide this 1 hour into stages or into stages or segments of like 15 minutes at a time or 30 minutes at a time, depends on how you feel it. And first of all, we should walk with a normal pace, slowly, normal pace, and we would know right step, left step, right step, left step, just to direct the mind back into the body, direct the mind back into the walking meditation. And then after that, when the yogi kind of having the mind stay in the body with the walking movement, then the yogi would go a little bit further into the second stage where you're trying to contemplate, you're trying to be more mindful of each movement of the step or each movement of the legs when the yogi walk. So the yogi can do right step, left step, right step, left step. Each step is one noting, one left step noting, right step noting, just like that. For 15 minutes or so, depends on how long you want to walk, 45 minutes or 60 minutes. And then after that, when the yogi do a higher stage or not a higher stage, but like a more detailed stage of walking meditation, then the yogi should pay more attention to the intention to walk as well as each stage of walking. So for example, when the yogi described, first of all, the yogi would have wanting to lift up the foot, and then there would be the movements or the actions of lifting. And then after that is the intentions of moving the foot forward and then carry out by the actions of carrying, pushing forward. And then there's intentions of lower or stepping the foot onto the ground. And then there will be the actions following with that. So when the person do it like that, that is how the right way of doing or contemplating while doing walking meditation. And the yogi mentioned that during walking meditations, all of a sudden I felt like my two legs became like two sticks moving forward, and these two sticks do not belong to me. So first of all, there's nothing belong to us. That is no argument. But in terms of when the yogi describe or having shared that the two legs can seem like two sticks, that a little bit of imaginations there or perceptions there. Because when a person do walking meditations, and when sati, mindfulness is very continuous, and the mind is very concentrated, paying attention on the movement, then the yogi will see the manifestations of the major element in the body. So for example, it should be heavy or heaviness or lightness when the person want to move or lift the foot up, and then when you touch the ground, there would be the sensations of heaviness or lightness or the temperature, if it's coldness or heat, or when you move the foot forward, that would be movement. So that is actually seeing the characteristic and seeing the manifestations of rupa, the material quality. But when the yogi compare the two legs, like the two sticks, that a little bit of imaginations and perception there, and is not very correct in terms of how to see things in the ultimate realities. And also the question the yogi raised that, could you please let me know whether or not this is the right way of doing walking meditations or the right way of seeing things? So asking this kind of questions show that the yogi have doubt in the practice of yogi practice, as well as not very clear of their experience. So when this doubt comes, then is whether or not it's imagination. Then it means that the experience, it was so not how to say it, obvious, so that you can see, this is how it is. But then you have to like you don't know whether or not you imagine it or you actually experience it. So when you experience something, then you know quite sure, okay, this is how it's feel when it's feel this way, when I see it this way. So just for that, Sayagyi just tell yogi that doing walking meditation, just try to pay more attention wholeheartedly and ardently, and just have your eyes open, walk with a slow pace, and trying to pay attention to the movements of the leg instead of remembering what needs to be done and how to contemplate. And whatever action that you do, just trying to be mindful and note it right away, and without worrying about if it's labeling as lifting, pushings, or anything. Okay. So moving on to the second question. Dear Bante, I would like to have an interview about my walking meditations as well. So while standing, preparing to walk, I could feel the heaviness of the body pressing on the two legs. I have the intentions of wanting to walk. And because of this intention, I felt like there's this pushing forward, there's this urge, or there's this force pushing forward for me to lift up my foot. And this, after that, I feel like this is a force of pushing the foot to move forward and then stepping down on the ground. After that, I can feel the heaviness of the legs or the foot. I'm sorry. After that, I can feel the heaviness at the body on that foot. And then the next foot or the other leg would continue to walk, and the entire process or the entire stages happen again, just like that. There's many times the mind cannot follow the entire process of lifting, pushing forward, and placing down of the foot from the beginning to the end. And sometimes because of that, I have to close my eye to gain back my concentration. However, I can see that there's still a lot of thinkings and wondering happening in the mind. While practicing sitting meditations, I have concentration to remember to follow the risings and falling of the abdomen. And while following or contemplating the risings and the falling of the abdomen, I felt a little bit of tension as well as expansions happening in front of I don't know what this means, like in the bones of the chest area. And I felt there's these unpleasant feelings arise there. And then when this unpleasant feelings arise, I remind myself, or I remember the teachings of all the masters about when you practice Vipassana meditation, most of the time you would experience anicca, impermanent, dukkha, unsatisfactory, and anatta, non-self. So is this the dukkha? Is it the suffering that I'm feeling right now is the one that most of the teacher mentions about? While practicing sitting meditation, more and more I would be able to contemplate and see the movements of risings, falling clearer and clearer. And I can see that the mind is, I can see the mind wandering here and there and go back to the main objects, and I can see that. However, there's one thing that distracts me a lot, especially when it's come to hearing, because the mind keeps following the sounds from outside. And I could not bring the mind back to the body, and it keeps following the sound from the beginning to the ends of the sounds. And I'm trying to fix this. However, as soon as their sounds arise, the mind would continue ultimately or right away would follow that sound. Could you please tell me how to practice in terms of or how to train the mind when it's come to hearing? Thank you so much. And I still have more questions, but I think this is enough time for one question. So there's many parts in this questions. First of all, the yogi talks about walking meditations, and the way this yogi described his or her walking meditation is very detailed. So first of all, before walking, there would be standing. And when standing, the yogi could feel the heaviness of the body pressing on the two legs. And that is the feeling. And paying attention in the body is only when there's sati, paying attention in the body, the yogi could be able to do that. And before making the walking or lifting or moving the leg, their intentions of wanting to move or wanting to walk. And after this intention, the yogi can feel there's a little pushing forward, making the foot to lift up, and then there's a pushing forward to push the legs forward. So this has been described very detailed in terms of the movements, as well as in terms of the feelings when these things happen. There's pushing, there is heaviness, and there is tensions there. And why the person walking like that, when the legs is pushing forward, there's also few movement, and then there's intentions or the movements of placing the foot on the ground. And when the foot on the ground, the yogi can feel again the heaviness of the body on the legs. And just like that, the yogi described the walking meditation. So this is the right way to practice walking meditation, as well as the right way to describe how walking meditations progress or manifest. And the yogis say that many times the yogi cannot pay attention or contemplate from the beginning to the end of the entire process of walking. And this is very normal, because when walking, there's a lot of activities happening. So it's require so much more attention, so much more concentrations, as well as sati, compared to sitting meditations. And yogi mentioned that yogi have to close the eye in order to gain more concentration. However, the mind still wander, and this mind still have a lot of thinkings arise. And Sayagyi say that it's good that yogi, when there's a lot of thinkings happening in the mind during walking meditation, yogi stop and stand. But while you stop and stand, remember to contemplate as well. So while you stand, you have to know or note labeling standing, and when you stand like that, you should pay attention or scan from your head to toe to see what kind of feelings you have, how you feel, is a heaviness or the temperatures and things like that. So that way the mind is busy contemplating on the activities of the body as well as the mind, so that thinking cannot arise. And then even when the yogi do that and still they're thinking, a lot of thinkings arise, then the yogi should open the eyes and started to walk again. So that way the mind would have more things to pay attention to, and so that it will when the mind is busy paying attention to the body as well as the mind and all the actions of the walking movement, then thinking would not have a chance to arise in the mind. So when the yogi practices sitting meditation, the yogi will be able to have concentrations and be able to contemplate or noting the risings, falling very continuously. And why practicing like that? There's this feeling that yogi feel like this tension or this expansions, and then this unpleasant feeling happening in the body. And yogi want to know, is this the suffering that many teacher would talk about? And in that way, yogi remind he or himself that this is, when practicing vipassana, this is one should experience the anicca, impermanent, dukkha, unsatisfactory or suffering, as well as anatta, non-self. So according to the stages of vipassana insight knowledges, this can consider as the samma sannyana. This means that the knowledge, the inside knowledge arises when the yogi would be able to somewhat understand on a certain level of what is anicca, impermanent, what is dukkha, unsatisfactory or suffering, as well as anatta. So what the yogi described here is not wrong. And when the yogi can see that, then yogi realize that, okay, everything is forever changing. It does not stay the same. Moving on to the last part of the questions, when the yogi say that even though yogi can have more concentration and have more, be able to contemplate more whatever activities happening in the body as well as in the mind during, sitting meditation, the yogi, the mind continues to follow the sounds, the outside sounds, and it does not stay at the body, or it does not stay at the main objects anymore. It will follow the sounds from the beginning to the end. And the yogi want to know how to fix the situation. So Sayagyi say that when hearings arise, either it's a bird singing or chirping, or the dog barking, or some people talking around you when you practice meditation, all you have to do is just be mindful at it and notice it. So if there's hearings happen, all you have to do is noting hearing for 1 to 3 times, and try not to let your mind continue to follow the hearing so far in terms of thinking about the hearings, or thinking, or let the mind wander so much into from the beginning to the end. So when hearings happen, you catch it right away, you pay attention, you notice it, you label it as hearing right away. And after that, even the sound is still continue to happen, you trying to direct the mind back into the body, back into the mind, whatever the object at the present moment. So let's say if risings falling at your main object, and then when contemplating, or be mindful of risings falling, these hearings arise, and you would contemplate hearing. After 2 or 3 times, if the sound is still there, let it go. Don't pay attention to it. Just trying to direct the mind, go back to the risings falling of the abdomen. And this time, this way, it might take a little bit for the yogi to train the mind, trying to let go of the sound, let go of the distraction, and go back to paying attention to the risings falling. So that is what I got for the second question and answer. Moving on to the last questions. Oh, I'm sorry. There's one more thing that I need to mention for the second question. Sayagyi say that, especially when doing walking meditations, according to Mahasi Sayadaw method, that when we walk, we trying to walk as if we are a blind person, because when walking, there's so many, we have our eyes open, and there's many things for us to see, but we don't want to look around. We want to make sure that we look like 1 meter or 6 feet ahead of us with our head straight. So because if you bend the head, the neck would give you problem later. You just look down and walk normally, and then you walk as if a blind person. You do not pay attention to any other things outside. Same thing like that with hearing. You walk, and then you trying to pay attention to the walking. Whatever sounds happen, you notice it, you let it go, and you go back to your walking. And it goes with the body as well. You do not walk too fast. You walk slowly so that you'll be able to contemplate and pay attention to each movement of the body while walking. And the example giving is that you walk like a sick person, like a patient, because here in the US, after an operation, the next day, the doctor would ask you to do some exercise to walk. But because of the wound, it's very hard for you to walk fast. So therefore, you have to walk very slowly. Just like that, when a person during walking meditation, the person wants to walk slowly, mindfully, so that the mind will be able to catch every single moment of the walking process. Okay. All right. And then when the person wants to be very mindfully during the walking, the person can do like stages of the walking. First is right step, left step, and moving on to the next day, the person can say, first of all, there would be the intentions of wanting to walk. And then after that intention, there would be the walking. And the walking would happen is like intention to lift the foot. That is one noting. And then after this intention, there will be the actions of lifting the foot, and be noting that is the second noting. And then after lifting the foot, there would be the intention of pushing the foot forward. That is the third noting. And after after that intention, then the movements or the actions are pushing forward, and that would be the fourth contemplation. And then after pushing, there would be intentions of placing the foot down. And after that intention, then they carry out the action of placing the foot. So one actions of lifting, moving forward, stepping down, there would be 6 stages of contemplation. And when the yogi contemplate that way, the yogi contemplate both the body and the mind. The intentions is the contemplations of the mind. The carry out the action is the contemplations of the body. That is how the yogi want to do walking meditations in detail. Okay. So the last questions is questions number 3. And this question talk about Yoniso Manasikara. Dear Bante, could you please teach me how to understand the right way about training the mind in terms of Yoniso Manasikara? Yoniso Manasikara is a Pali term. It's a very technical Pali term for practicing Vipassana meditation. And how to distinguish between Yoniso Manasikara with Tuệ Chi and Tưởng Chi. And these 2 words or these 2 terms, Sayagyi say, we do not associate or we do not see much in our tradition. And he would guess that the first term would talk about Panya, and the second term would talk about imaginations or perception. So please help me explain a little bit how to practice, or what does it mean to have Yoniso Manasikara when practicing Vipassana meditation. So in terms of the Pali word of Yoniso Manasikara, and it means that having the right attentions or having a wise attentions. And when it's come to wise attention, then it's talked about wisdom or Panya. And the 2 terms that the yogi mentions in Vietnamese, one is Tuệ Chi. Sayagyi, from his understanding, that means it talks about wisdom or Panya, and the other one is Tưởng Chi. Then it talks about imaginations or perception. So when we talked about Vipassana meditation, there is absolutely no imagination. There is absolutely no perception. It's only about direct experience so that Panya, wisdom, can arise. And this wisdom is the direct wisdom, the direct insight gained from a personal direct experience to see things as they really are. So absolutely there is no imaginations in it. And the example Sayagyi gave was like the first yogi, when the yogi described during walking meditation, the yogi described the 2 legs just like the 2 sticks moving forward. So the 2 legs, and the yogi can seem like feel like or see it as 2 sticks. That is imagination, that is perception, and that is not how the yogi should experience during walking meditations, or as well as see things as they really are. And then the second yogi, when the yogi described walking meditation, the yogi described about heaviness, about tensions, about movement, about pushing forward. And these are the direct experience the yogi have when contemplating while doing walking. And these are the manifestations of the characteristics of the body. So heaviness and lightness is the characteristic or intrinsic natures of the earth element. And moving forward are pushings or movement, and that is the characteristics or intrinsic natures of the wind element. So when the yogi described that way, and that is Tuệ Chi, or that is wisdom, that is the inside knowledge that gained from personal practical experience of the practice. So when it's come to Yoniso Manasikara, if Sayagyi have to choose between these 2 terms, he would say that Yoniso Manasikara is closely compared to the Panya, Tuệ Chi, when the yogi asked this question. And now Sayagyi explained a little bit about Yoniso Manasikara. So Yoniso Manasikaras are made of 2 words, Yoniso and Manasikara. Manasikaras is one of the 7 mental factors, the common mental factors that arise together with the mind, always. So when we talks about this body, we talks about namas and rupa. Namas is the mind and rupas is the material quality. And the mind nama is made out of two things, consciousness and mental factors. And these mental factors, they always arise together with the mind. They always cease together with the mind. They have the same object of the mind and they have the same base of the mind. And there are 7 universal mental factor, manisikara. Oh, I'm so sorry. There are 7 mental factor, cetasika, that always arise in all minds. Wholesome, unwholesome, good or bad, all these 7 mental factor always arrive together with the mind. And they are 1, phasa, contact, 2, vedana, feeling, 3, sanya, perception, 4, chetana, motivation, 5, ekagata, one-pointedness, 6, trivitinriya, faculties of mental life, and 7, manisikara, attention. So manisikara is one of the 7 common universal mental factor always arise in the mind, and simply translate in English is attention. So this attention is different from cetana, intention. So this attention is just simply direct the mind to the object. So let's say when seeing happen, for seeing consciousness to arise, or that when seeing happen, they have to have all these factors. First of all, they have to be this eye sensitivity. Your eyes cannot be blind. If you're blind, you cannot see. Second is you have to have the object, the external objects of seeing. And then thirdly, you have to have light. If it's too dark, you cannot see anything. And lastly, and most importantly, is attention. So for example, if there's something's right in front of your eyes, but you don't pay attention, you cannot see it. So this attention is simply manasikara. Okay. So when you want to see something, you have to have this attention to pay attention to that object for seeing consciousness to arise. Same thing with hearing, smelling, tasting, and touching. But then for that action to happen, first of all, they have to have intention. You have to have the intention wanting to see, and therefore you turn your eye toward that object and you pay attention to that object, and all the conditions arise, seeing consciousness happen. So this manisikaras is considered in the Pali term, or in a Bijama is Pancha Dwara Vachara, where it's just turning or shifting the mind towards the object, simply just like that. But when it talked about yoniso manisikara is wise attention. Wise attention can be understood as attention with wisdom. Okay, so now the terms is not just pure simply attentions anymore, but attention with wisdom. So what does it mean, attention with wisdom? It means that it have to have satis there, mindfulness there, because when there's attention without wisdom, then the mind would just go back and be conditioned by hatred, delusions, and ignorance. And with that, the mind would have unwholesome mind can arise. But when there's a yoniso manisikara, that means that attention with sati. And this is not regular, this sati should be samma sati, or the right sati. And this sati is one of the factors of the Eightfold Noble Path. And with this sati is remind the mind to pay attention, first of all, to the right object, which is the objects at the present moment, within the body, within the mind, not the objects of the past, not the object of future. Because if the past is thinking, future is imaginations or worry. So that would be conditions already. But at the present moment, whatever is going on in the body, whatever is going on in the mind, sati, mindfulness, will remind the mind to pay attention to this object and stay on this object. And so that, and then all the mental factors, wholesome mental factors would arise, because sati is also a mental factor and is considered a wholesome mental factor or a beautiful mental factor. And with satis is there, other beautiful mental factor would be able to arise, so that the mind can give the right attention, give the wise attention to the objects, and that is the objects at the present moment, the objects at the body, and the objects of the mind. So again, to summarize what Saji said, Yoniso Manasikara simply understands is the wise attention, paying attention with wisdom. And wisdom, in order for wisdom to arise, we have to have, first of all, sati, and secondly, concentration. So sati and concentrations are one point, and these also the mental factor that can arise in the mind. So when you have Manasikara, pure attentions, and then with Yoniso Manasikara is attention with sati, with mindfulness. And this mindfulness will remind the mind to take note, to stay at the present moment, to stay the object within the body and the mind, so that it will be able to penetrate, for wisdom to see as things really are, or the intrinsic natures of all the phenomena in the body as well as the mind. Okay, so that's all I have for today's summary of translation. Thank you so much for listening. I wish everybody a good night. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Bye bye.